Hi, this is Say Your Name, and you're listening to the FSF Popcast. Did I do it right?
Fantastic. I love that, actually. We're going to keep that one. The show where Captain Picard wishes that we hadn't made it so, but Captain Shaw still tells us no.
Our show is brought to you by our charity sponsor, the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund, which supports the Wish Upon a Teen Foundation that helps out sick kids when they need it most. And just imagine the comfort you'll give Red Shirt crewman number 128. He'll know that when he puts on the red shirt and joins Captain Liam Shaw in deleting Riker's playlist from the library, that he didn't leave his family destitute and without hope, because the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund has his back, and what's left of his Malbec.
All right, guys, our guest today is an actor. He does voice work. He's a writer. Not to mention, he runs one of the coolest nerd websites that I've come across in a while, where we're going to be getting some dice and some shirts from because they're freaking awesome. And out of all the things that you will know him from, clearly his new character has caused quite a stir and a level of excitement in the Star Trek community as of late as Captain Liam Shaw in the season 3 of Star Trek Picard. We are thrilled to welcome Todd Stashwick to the FSF podcast. Welcome to the show, Todd.
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
Yeah, you?
Couldn't be.
Could be, for sure.
Did you steal the cookies from the cookie jar?
I didn't steal cookies from the cookie jar. Hi, friends.
Hello. Hey, so before we jump into anything Trek related, I do actually want to talk to you about your website because this will become very expensive for me. I was looking that over and I'm showing my wife. I was sitting there last night with my iPad and I'm like, oh my honey, look at that. I'm gonna have to get that. A couple seconds later, oh my god, look at that! I'm gonna have to get that. So
My
it's called
favorite thing on the website. Okay, go on. I'm gonna let you finish plugging me.
Yeah, it's called the nerdcircus.com.
Yep.
Between the lava dice, which are amazing. Those
They're
things
fun,
look
right?
so. Oh my
They're
god,
cute.
they look so cool.
You want to eat them,
right? They look like candies. They really do.
They look like delicious orange candies.
Exactly.
But they reminded me of the gloopy glops from Lava Lamps. And if you notice, there's a big sort of 70s vibe on the site.
I did, and I absolutely enjoyed it. There's the libations books, the shirts, and I'm just kind of adding this all up in my head. And I'm like, hey, honey, you know that second job you were talking about? That might need to be a thing.
Yeah.
So
my favorite thing is the dice box created by Charles Thurston, because when we were young nerds in the 80s, playing the dungeons as well as the dragons, we played them in wood paneled basements with orange shag carpet. And so I wanted my dice box to look, shaped like a cigar box, because that's what we used to keep all our dice and minis and pencils in, or obviously a Crown Royal bag. But then B, I wanted it to be its own little basement. And so if you look at the box, it looks like wood paneling and there is mini shag carpet inside, and
it's super cool.
It just
That's
tickles
awesome.
me.
It's
and
super
those are made to order by artist Charles Thurston. He handcrafts each one of those. They're not off some assembly line.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
Yeah,
so
cool.
I have a question for you about your website.
Yes.
So I'm looking at all this stuff, and I'm, like I said, adding it up in my brain. But what I'm wondering is, what was your inspiration to start the site? I know you said you were a nerd in the 80s, and we're all having fun with it and all that kind of stuff. But what was your process for adding things to the website? Because basically you're adding your name to the design of whatever's going out there, because this is, Stashwick's Nerd Circus.
Yeah. So the inspiration. So I'll give you a little peek. So this is where I spend an inordinate amount of my days.
Love it.
Okay. So this is the nerd lair, right?
Oh, that's awesome.
And this is where I play D&D on my signature Dungeons and Dragons table.
Yeah, I saw that on the website.
Table. So where it came from, I know this is an audio podcast, so that panorama is useless.
Actually, we're video as well, so they will see it.
Hot damn. So during lockdown, I had idle hands, which is a very dangerous thing for me. And I had been toying with the idea of entering the third market ancillary nerd merch site, because this stuff, like nerddom, sits in my little soul, sits firmly like mid 70s forward, like 77, like that's when it all started for me. If you think about 1977, it was Star Wars, Atari, the Rankin and Bass Hobbit, like so many things that formed the foundation of who I am today, started that year. And so when I started playing D&D around 79, like we played them in wood panel basements with thorn shag carpet. And so much of my nerddom feels like late 70s, early 80s. And I wanted to create stuff that extended that feeling out. Like you want to share your version of what you love, how you love it, right? And so much of so I'm like, well, how do I create unique products that give my version of the love, and maybe people can nerd along with me in that way? So I tried to, for the most part, create things that whiff of that vibe. That's why the byline is groovy wares and nerdy paraphernalia.
Yeah.
And so I want the lava lamp dice, and they're in a little purple bag like the Crown Royal bag, and then my son designed Mai Tai glasses, but they're kind of like those Burger King glasses that you used to get, like Return of the Jedi or Empire Strikes Back or the Great Muppet Caper. Like I wanted them to feel like those collectible glasses. Are you going to show me? You're going to show me, aren't you? Here it comes. Drum roll,
like
please.
That Return of the Jedi
Like
glass?
that right there. This is what I'm talking about. So I created Mai Tai glasses that kind of have that vibe that my son did a little cartoon for. T-shirts that look somewhat like concert T-shirts. Like I have an AC SSDC, and if you know, you know.
That's the one I want. God, that's awesome.
Yeah, and if you know, you know. It's a fun one for those about to roll. We salute you. So that was the site. And so it was also during lockdown. So like I had time to do the research and find to set up the site and take the pictures and create the merchandise. And then I met Brandon Cleely, and we created the Mystic Libations book because we were playing a lot of Zoom D&D. Oh, I'm gonna show you guys something cool real quick. We were playing a lot of Zoom D&D. Ready? Tell him, Gary.
Oh, sweet.
Oh, God, that's awesome.
That's Gary. So we're playing a lot of Zoom D&D.
That's awesome.
And so I wanted something to, we were feeling all kind of disconnected, obviously, during the height of lockdown, and D&D was a way that we were all connecting online. And I said, well, what if we were all making the same cocktail? And Brandon, neck deep in tiki culture, he actually was one of the art designers and set dressers for Trader Sam's at Disneyland. And he knew, the bartenders there and everything. So we started making D&D inspired cocktails, and then that turned into the book. We kickstarted it, and that turned into the book. And so in many ways, like the Nerd Circus, since my life is and my career is, I've done so many of nerdy shows: Supernatural, Buffy, Enterprise, 12 Monkeys, and now this little known title known as Picard. This independent.
Yeah, nobody's heard of that.
This obscure Star Trek thing. So my life is a Nerd Circus. Like in my off hours, I play D&D. I put together Lego. I collect toys. And then my professional life that feeds my childish habits is spent in nerddom as well. So my life is a Nerd Circus. So basically, the long answer to your simple question is that's why it's called the Nerd Circus. The room that we're in is called the Nerd Lair. It all just kind of points towards my soul.
That's awesome. Love it. Absolutely love it.
So looking at your IMDb resume,
which I do every day.
Do you upkeep it yourself?
No, I just stare at it.
Oh, okay. So you're credited with an upcoming project that's listed as being in post-production. So what can you tell us about the project entitled Shopping for Superman Without NDA Issues?
Oh, it's a documentary, I believe, about comic book stores, I believe.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I shot it a long time ago. It was just an interview that I did. A Shopping Superman. Yeah, I think I was just interviewed about comic books in that. And again, I may have lost the thread because it's been a while.
Yeah,
but
on
yeah, it's
IMDb. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no you.
I was just saying
It's your
on
show,
IMDb.
man. It's your show.
No, on IMDb, it just said that it was talking about the necessity or the importance of the neighborhood comic book shop and as not just a hangout, but for where people could go to meet other people of like-minded people,
Yeah.
and that kind of as being a cultural hangout.
Yeah, when I was a kid in the suburbs of Chicago, because yeah, that's factually accurate. I'm a dipshit from Chicago. Um, the local comic book shop for us was Moondog Comics Book in Schaumburg, Illinois, and then the local hobby shop was the Hobbyist, where we would buy our dice and metal figures and our pink box to play the dungeon. And I lived. And I'm actually returning there next week. I lived and would go to camp in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, and we would walk to the Dungeon Hobby Shop, which was ground zero for TSR, the creators of D&D. And
I'm actually
Very cool.
I'm going there next week for Gary.
Yeah, you're going to Gary Con?
Yeah.
Say hi. I think I'll be having a autograph meet and greet table on Thursday. If you want to swing by and say, "Hey, it was me from the thing."
Okay.
From the FSFA.
I
From the
will
FISFA.
definitely try to check you out there. So
Check me out.
yeah,
Exactly.
just from
Cool.
a distance.
You can put
Yeah, I've got-
dollars in my belt.
There you go.
Um,
Yeah, I've got friends. Not friends. My family actually lives in Woodstock, Illinois, just south.
oh,
of
I love
Lake Geneva.
Woodstock.
Yeah, Woodstock's an
Beautiful.
amazing little town.
Yeah, where
So-
are you guys located?
We're in Michigan, so I'm close to Lake Michigan on the west side of Michigan. Nick's more centrally located, just
Cool,
out.
cool.
So just a little south of Lansing.
I was in Detroit for a spit during Second City Days. I performed at Second City Detroit.
Nice.
I'm
Very
well
cool.
versed in all Michigonian content.
Excellent.
Yes.
All right, Todd, you're also credited with being a writer for a video game called Forspoken, an action
Yes, I am. A
style
co-writer.
RPG. Yeah,
Co-writer.
co-writer. It came out on PS5 and for PC gaming. So tell us about the game, if you would, and how does writing for a video game differ than other writing formats?
Okay. How you want to know about the game? The game is a classic tale as old as it's the Wizard of Oz. It's Alice in Wonderland. It's the modern day Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's court. It's about a young gal feeling kind of at the end of her rope in New York City, modern day, who through a course of events suddenly finds herself in a land where magic is real and dragons are afoot and there are monsters and there are evil queens, and she suddenly finds herself the reluctant savior of this land, and there's magic and there's fighting and there's monsters. It's really fun, fast-paced. Magic is your only weapon, and you get spells and whatnot, and you are sort of literally bound to this sentient bracelet known as Cuff that talks to you. It's kind of your traveling companion. So it's a bit of an unholy alliance between this medieval, uptight British intelligence combined with this girl who very smart gal from New York City, this kind of modern teen. Well, she's not a teen, she's like 21. This young lady from New York City, and that's the story of the game.
That's cool.
And it's a lot of fun. And what was the other question?
How does writing a video game differ than writing in other formats?
It doesn't on one level. You're still kind of dealing with a 3-act structure of when you're telling a kind of a linear narrative. Now, what you do is, I said do. What you do is you kind of pull the needle off the record in certain points of the narrative, because it becomes what they call on the sticks, where now for much of the traversal and action and the movement, where that would be in a movie, you know, you would watch Frodo and the gang going over the Misty Mountains. The player is in control of that, and the player is the one who furthers the action of the story. And there's gated moments where like they have to get through all of this before it will unlock the next cinematic. Now, me as a writer, I am still with my writing team, not my writing team, the writing team. I didn't assemble them. With the writing team, we are still beating out a hero's journey, if you will, a 3-act structure with all of the same beats, the upturns and downturns that you would find in any traditional media, except that it's just longer. I mean, as opposed to like a 110-page script, you're now writing a 350-page script because you're filling 20 hours of content.
Yeah, I have. It does sound like a lot of fun. I want to check it out on. I don't have a PS5, but I can get it on Steam, so I'm gonna.
There you
look
go.
at it on there. So
it's fun. It's a lot of fun, and it's fast-paced action. The ability to switch between the spells is really fun.
Yeah, all the reviews I read about it said that it needs a little time to set up the story, but once you get about an hour or so into the game, he said give it the hour, and then the reviews say that it's amazing. The story content from then on out is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, look, like any story you're doing, you have to do setup. You have to see what's at stake. You try to you try to get people to care about the character and want to keep fighting for them to survive in these environments, and you don't get the payoff without understanding the dilemma and why her back is against the wall in the first place, and why she goes from the frying pan into the fryer. Like, it's the careful what you wish for. I mean, she is looking for somewhere that's green. Like, she wants to find a place outside of the cement maze that is New York, and she gets more than she bargained for. And so it takes time for us to build that narrative. It takes time for you to get acclimated to the new surroundings, understanding the mechanics of using her power, because she doesn't have those powers when you're in New York. So it's a slower building process, and obviously some wanted that to be a faster building process, but it is how these things lay out to tell the story in the way that we chose to tell it.
I look at it this way. I think we're in a generation where most people, especially the younger generation, they want instant gratification. Let's get it right here, right now. They're not ready for this. They're not willing, rather, to allow for setup on things. And I think that if you're going to have a good story, something that people are going to want to spend their time on, you're going to have to give it a foundation.
You need setup. You do. And look, if there's nothing we've learned about the internet, it's really nuanced. It isn't. It's just the idea. I mean, we live in a very thumbs up, thumbs down culture. I like it. I don't like it. Right. And so, I think giving something the time that it needs hopefully will be a bigger payoff for you in the long run. I can't control what people like and what they don't like. Just try to put your heart and soul into a project and hope for the best. And then you release it to the wild and see what kind of response it gets. I think people ultimately are really actually having a blast with the game. And I think there's really wonderful surprises buried deeper and deeper and deeper in the story, twists and turns that are just, unexpected yet completely earned. And I'm very proud of the work that we did.
You should be. Yeah. And this is the other thing I said. I've said this on a couple other interviews, talking to people who have put stuff out. And I look at it this way. In the age of the internet that we live in, where people are so willing to jump on and crap all over something just because they can, anything over a 4-star rating in my mind is a 5. So especially the closer you get to a 5, and because Forspoken, from what I've seen, is between 4.5 and 4.7 on most places that I've seen it reviewed. So to me, that means it's actually probably really good, and the couple of
It is.
naysayers just need to be overlooked.
I mean, it is. And look, I'm not above criticism. We're all, it's all a process. We're all learning and growing and
Sure.
trying to improve. And I am just one piece of that whole puzzle, right? I was part of the narrative team. I wasn't part of the directing team. I wasn't part of the casting team. I wasn't part of the animators. I wasn't part of the editors or the game mechanics or the level designers. I mean, there's so many things that go into making making video games that I'm always impressed that things get finished. It's like there's
Absolutely.
so much happening, and I think I've put a good 5 or 6 hours into the game myself, and I'm having a great time. I'm able to kind of jump into it objectively and go, yeah, this is a lot of fun. And as far as what you were saying earlier, which is about our the culture that we live in, everybody's a critic. I mean, we have a cottage industry of clicks, right? And so headlines of why this thing is horrible tend to draw people in because people really enjoy watching something get ripped apart. Now, I vowed long ago that I would be a creator, not a critic. It doesn't mean I love everything. I just keep my lousy opinion, or if I have a lousy opinion of something, I keep it off the internet because I don't need to spend time putting people towards the thing I don't like. I would rather put them towards the thing that I like, and fan the flames of the good in this world, as opposed to fan the flames of negativity.
Absolutely.
Ultimately, everybody's there to make up your own minds. One person's treasure is another person's trash, and so fun. But with a YouTube culture where people have made it their business to trash movies, to trash games, to trash story, to I want to see a thumbs up, thumbs down on trash. Like, just go through garbage and go, this garbage sucks, or this is really awesome garbage. Yeah, this garbage is cringe. But yeah, I mean, I would rather know that I took a risk and I put something out there, that I made a thing in this world that I hoped people would enjoy. Again, I'm not above creative, constructive criticism. I avoid the culture of people that make it their trade to creatively destroy something verbally.
Understood.
I just don't have I would rather go make a thing that's hopefully brought to bring delight rather than spend my energy bringing things down.
Absolutely. And that's kind of the whole purpose of this show. I don't think even when we do criticize something, it's never to trash it. It's to talk about it, but we'll usually find something that we can highlight that's positive about it.
And I think people want to like something, and if they don't, they feel betrayed, or they take it personally. I mean, look at the toxicity that Star Wars has brought up, and the tribalism that forms in that community, the tribalism that forms in the Star Trek community. I think it's a wide world, and it's a cynical world, and let people find their joy where they find it, man.
Absolutely. I can get behind that.
And now, a word from our show sponsor, Level Up Sabers. Their link can be found in the show notes.
Welcome back to the FSF Popcast.
So when you were younger, you aspired to perform at the Chicago's famous The Second City, which you eventually got to do, and you got to tour along with them. So how did that help you in preparing for your roles for like today? And how did achieving that goal just add to your...
Well, several things. Obviously, I grew up just wanting to be a Ghostbuster. I just wanted to be Bill Murray. Like, that was my goal. I grew up watching Meatballs and Stripes and Saturday Night Live, and I just loved Bill Murray. I just loved his irreverence and his dryness and his provocateur, and I just adored his whole vibe. He was playful without being harmful, in that Bugs Bunny way. Like, I always love the fact that he could, as somebody said, level institutions by raising an eyebrow. I think so. I just wanted to be him, and then so I plotted the trajectory of Bill Murray, and it's like, oh, he went to Second City. Okay, then that's my goal. And all through college, I knew that when I got out of college, I wanted to go right into doing sketch and improvisational comedy in Chicago, and I already lived in Chicago, so it wasn't a tough commute. And so then I made sure I got a foundation. I started studying at Second City. I started studying at Improv Olympic and performing at Improv Olympic and performing at Second City and getting all of those experiences. And then when I did eventually get hired to Second City, it goes back to that, Malcolm Gladwell, 10,000 hours. Like, I was thrown into trial by fire, like earning my stripes by getting in a van and going all over the United States to ply my trade, getting up in front of college audiences night after night and doing comedy and doing sketch. And so you build a lot of muscles. You build a lot of honing those skills of improvisation and doing scene work and acting and breaking stuff down, and then pack it all up and go on to the next town. And then eventually came back to Chicago and did Second City Detroit and did Second City Northwest, and all of that then set the stage to audition for Saturday Night Live, which I did, but I didn't get, but it moved me to New York. So I think it was just from an early age, from like 23 to 27, just spent those years in Chicago creating theater and really honing and getting training and trial by fire and failure and success and all of that. Yeah.
Nice.
Very cool. All right, Todd, let's talk about the 10,000-pound elephant in the room. That is, of course, Star Trek Picard, that little known series that nobody really watched.
This independent channel.
Yeah, nobody's heard of it, but we're going to talk about it anyway. All right, so now for many, playing in the Star Trek universe in any form is a dream come true. So in your case, in the story of Todd Stashwick, what does it mean to you personally to have a role in Star Trek, and a role that has people asking for more of you, more of Liam Shaw?
What does it mean? Well, obviously, it's like it fills the cup and spills over, right? Like the fact that I had an opportunity to not once, but now twice, put my thumbprint in the Star Trek lore between this and Enterprise.
Right.
And then to be able to do it with the next gen reunion cast, and to do it with my dear friends Sean Tretta and Chris Monfett, and the head of the spear being my dear friend Terry Metalis, who created the role for me. Who was my showrunner on 12 Monkeys and then my showrunner on Picard. It just was, and then getting to work with Frakes again after working with him on Burn Notice. I mean, it just was such a confluence of fortune and a confluence of creativity and a confluence of opportunity. And then to be humbled by the response that this dip from Chicago is getting, this knucklehead. I describe him, he has a blue collar grace about him. And then seeing people call for a spin-off series, it's like, well, that's all lovely. It's so heartening, and it's an embarrassment of riches and all the other hyperbolic descriptions I could reach for. Look, if all I get in my life in the Star Trek universe is a 3-episode arc on Enterprise and season 3 of Picard, where people responded immensely well to this character, then my belly's full. if it goes beyond that, as I've said in the past, I am Aragorn and they have my sword.
Mhm.
Love it.
You know, if they sound the horn of Gondor, I am showing up.
Love the reference. Awesome.
So we have a Facebook group, and it has over 210,000 members. And
Yes.
between that,
210,000 members?
Yep.
yeah,
Almost
it
two.
just-
We're just shy of 211 right now.
it's just filled with memes, one thing after another, and it literally blew up. And that's why we
Congratulations.
started the
Thank you.
podcast. So we love to get them involved with our questions as well. So we asked them if they had any questions for you. And so here are a few. You want to start us off, Tim?
Bring it on.
Sure. Yeah. So one of them comes from a good friend of ours, one of the writers from Phineas and Ferb, and he's a friend of the show. His name is Joshua Pruitt.
Okay.
And Josh he says, there's a real richness to Shaw's character and his arc that makes him, so far, that makes him a real standout amongst Trek's captains. Where did you find yourself connecting with him on the page, or what stood out to you? And did you have a prime directive approach to how you wanted to play him?
That's a lovely question. Well, the fun part is, and the rare part is, and the fortunate part is, it was crafted for me by, as I had said earlier, Sean Trotter, Chris Monfett, Terry Metalis, Oliver Grigsby, and then Chris Derrick, like a bunch of other writers, Matt Okamura, on the staff of Picard before I got there. And so having Terry craft this character, because he had worked with me for 4 seasons on 12 Monkeys. So when you're acting on a show, when you get cast on a show, often the trajectory is, we wrote this character, then we find this actor, and then as the season goes on and the series goes on, we start to craft the character to really suit the voice of the actor. Now, often it's here's a suit, put it on, welcome to the show, and then they start tailoring the suit to fit the actor. And then so over the course of 4 seasons of 12 Monkeys, they really knew how to write to my instrument, my voice, my whatever frilly term you want to use for what I do on screen. With Shaw, all of that work happened before I ever got there. So they were already, and again, I'm humbled by this, they were already calling him Captain Stashwick in the room when they were envisioning him. So they were already thinking of him in terms of my strengths as a performer. So when I would get the scripts, it was like getting a suit that was tailored to me already, that they knew my measurements. And so much of the work was already done. They told me his backstory. They told me his tragedy. They told me all of these things, so that from day one shooting, when you see that dinner scene with me and the legacy legends, that is Riker and Picard and Seven, all of that was already underneath because I knew it all. So that was my preparation. In terms of the performance of it, I started to do my take. I could kind of hear how they wanted me to sing their song, and I started singing it. And on day one, Terry was like watching on the monitor, and he walked out to me and goes, 100% that. Keep doing that. Whatever it is, that's him right there. And so I was given permission to chase it down with my instincts. And then, you have the directors, Frakes and Doug and everybody off to the side, like kind of going, all right, do it more like this time. Ooh, go deeper down that way this time. So that's a director's job, is to kind of conduct the singing of it all.
Very cool.
So Jesse from Open Pike Night wants to ask, do you currently, or would you in the future, consider offering a line of facial hair products under the brand Todd Stashwick?
Yes.
You're like, sure, why not? I figured I'd let the guy with the stash ask you a stash question, so
Perfect.
made sense.
It's perfect.
All right, we've got
probably
another
buy it.
question Exactly, right? I'd grow one out, but then I wouldn't be able to stop laughing at myself in the mirror. So, all right. So we have another question from another podcast. Some friends of ours from the Scarif podcast. They're a Star Wars based podcast out of the Chicagoland area. But they
Talk
want to
about their
ask
favorite film, Star Wars.
exactly
That's how we say it in Chicago.
Star Wars.
You guys see Star Wars? So good. They got laser swords.
Yeah, the guys from the Scarif podcast want to know when you're back home in Chicago, where do you go for pizza?
Well, by my mom, because my mom lives in Huntley, Illinois. We go to Papa Saverio's, but I love the Lou's. I love Leona's. I love Nancy's. Pizzeria Uno. I love a deep dish. I love a good deep dish pizza. I know a lot of people think it's casserole, but I don't. I grew up with it, so don't get on my ass about this. This is what I like.
A good Chicago style deep dish pizza is amazing.
Oh my God, I love it.
One slice and you can go take a nap on a couch.
She said after 3. Nice.
Exactly.
Well, Todd, thank you so much for being on our show today. Where can our listeners go to find out more about you and your works?
To find out about me? Oh, Jesus, Wikipedia. I don't know. Where do you go to find out about somebody? If they're interested in following my nonsense, you can go to Instagram at T Stashwick. You can go to Twitter at Todd Stashwick. You can go to thenerdcircus.com, which is where I hawk my groovy wares and nerdy paraphernalia. Beyond that, you could pay a private detective to follow me around. I don't know.
Fair enough.
Go through my garbage and rate my trash.
This is cringe.
This trash is so cringe.
Well, we will make sure that we put those in our show notes so that our listeners can look at those descriptions. And
you're drunk, aren't you, Nick?
Don't judge me.
I'm not judging. I'm jealous. Unlike Shaw, I'm a whiskey man, not a Malbec man.
There you go.
So Daddy likes his bourbon.
Ooh, nice. All right, guys, we just want to remind you that subscribing is the single most important thing you can do to ensure that we get more amazing guests like Mr. Todd Stashwick here today and have these funny moments for you to be able to listen to. So please subscribe. It helps us well more than we'll ever be able to tell you. And please be able to go check out Todd's trash, and you can rate it as cringe or, thumbs up, thumbs down.
Yep.
But for whatever reason, if you are not happy with the content of our show today, please feel free to lodge a complaint with the head of our complaint department. That, of course, is Roman Sionis, the Black Mask from TV's Gotham.
That's me. Wait a second.
You.
That's me. You're talking about me.
Want to remind you that Roman is not someone to be trifled with. This ruthless crime lord is tired of living in the Joker's shadow and is willing to torture anyone in his way to prove his point, even if it's just a couple of woefully undertrained podcasters like Nick and I. So send in just one copy of your form. That's all Roman needs to exact punishment for our poor podcasting. Just keep in mind, however, that this supervillain isn't known for being fair and that he may come pay you a visit as well. So think twice before you hit that enter button. It might be the last time you see your fingers.
Wahaha.
Well, thanks again, Todd.
What an absolute treat.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Tim, Nick, this has been the best day of my life.
Excellent.
I'm good with that.
There, I
We'll
said
take
it.
that. All right.
And look, I was at the birth of my children. And this is better. This exceeds that.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's going to wrap us up for the FSF Popcast. Goodbye.
Bye.
On behalf of the rest of the hosts of the FSF Popcast, we want to thank you for listening to this episode. If you'd like to be a guest on a future episode, please contact us by means of Twitter or Instagram using the handle @FSFPopcast. Or go to www.fsfpopcast.com and click on the Contact Me link. Thanks again, and hope you enjoyed the episode.
Copyright 2023 FSF Popcast.
Reference to any specific product or entity mentioned on this podcast does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by FSF Popcast. The views expressed by the guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. If you have any questions about this disclaimer, please contact us via email at info@fsfpodcast.com. Original music by Jordan Michaels.